everybody, I am back with a stylish tip for you. Of course, as you know, before we get into my tip of the week, I'm going to share what I have been knitting. So let's take a look at what Bridgette's been knitting. Okay, so what have I been knitting? You can probably guess. It's on my head. No, it's not on my head. I just decided to wear this hat for the video. So the yellow cable sweater, still knitting that. Finished a sleeve. Not much more to report on. And I thought I'd share this hat with you, which is such a great hat. The fur pom-pom, very popular. I made this, I think, a year ago. I actually knitted this this hat once for my sister for her birthday, and I liked it so much that I made this one for myself, and then I knit it for a friend. So this is a very popular knit hat pattern. Very popular in my house. It is by Jo Story, Jostorie. I will share a link to the pattern. It's called the Suffolk hat. It's really easy and really fast, and you might even be able to get it knit in time for Christmas. I knit one of these hats on a flight from New York to Las Vegas, so that's about 5 hours. So it's really chunky and you use big needles, so it's a quick knit. Jo Story does recommend their own yarn, but I actually use a yarn from Malabrigo called Mecca, spelled M-E-C-H-A. I will share a link to the yarn. It comes in a wide variety of colors, and it's really great too if you're just getting used to cables. So it's just a couple of cables. So it's not that ambitious for the new cable knitter, because I love to knit a cable, but it's not for everybody. So that's what I've been knitting. And now it's time to get into the style question. Let's get going with that. So I got an email. I think it's something that a lot of women can relate to, because that book by Marie Kondo, Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, was such a popular book. Everyone's kondoing everything. And I got an email from someone kind of talking about a side effect, if you will, of kondoing. She said, "Dear Bridget, like most women, I loved the book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo, and took on kondoing my home with great gusto. If it didn't spark joy, it went. I worry now I may have overdone it and I have nothing to wear. I don't have the disposable income to rebuild my wardrobe back, and I fear that in my overzealousness to rid myself of things, I am not going to be able to replenish my wardrobe back. What are your tips for when you over-kondo and have nothing left in your closet?" I love that, over-kondoed. So she over-kondoed, and I'm sure I over-kondoed once too, so I get it. It's like in that moment you're like, doesn't spark joy, God goes, it's gone. Like, I'll deal with it later, just it's gone, right? And then it's like, oh no, I may have overdone it. This like feeling of elation that comes with kondoing is such a great feeling. We love that feeling of purging, but then there's the uh-oh, what do I do now? So I think it's a great question. And I actually wrote a blog post about this that I'm going to share in the link, in a link below in the description box for some further reading. But I'm going to share my thoughts here. So if I have any sort of beef with Marie Kondo's book, which I did enjoy and I did use, it's the idea that we're just letting it all go. I think that, yes, it feels really great, but it's not necessarily incredibly thoughtful. And I'm certainly not implying that anyone hold on to things that don't work, but it sort of puts us in this headspace of like, it all goes, and then we have to deal with it. So I'm not a huge fan of purging everything at once, both seasons. Typically, I like to do a season at a time with clients. And this is what happened to me because I fell into the trappings of Marie Kondo's book, and I did a whole, like every bit of my wardrobe. I did exactly what she said. I put it in a big pile in my living room and I dug through it, and I did it in the winter. And then when summer came around, I was like, oh God, I have no summer clothes left, because I wasn't in the mindset of summer when I did it. So I wasn't living in that season. And I realized that I wasn't thinking of summer. I was wearing cozy sweaters and I was, wearing boots and jeans. It was like, yeah, those sandals can go, why not? Who cares? But then I'm like, wait, maybe I shouldn't have gotten rid of them. So I recommend instead, I know this goes against like the Kondo ways, but to seasonally purge as opposed to doing it all at once. I've also spoken to some organizers who have said that the one thing they disagree with is the idea that you just throw everything into a pile or, purge through it that way. Some organizers I've spoken to have said that it's overwhelming to do it that way, as opposed to taking it on, slowly or doing a little at a time. So that's something to consider, just a little side note. What I also like to do, and certainly I know you've already Kondo'd Jillian, this is from Jillian, but I like to do something with clients which is called putting something on life support. And I came up with that term years ago with clients when I would talk to them about things that we knew we were going to eventually replace. Like, let's say they had a pair of black pants and the pants were fine. They were going to get them through, but we were going to keep our eyes out for another pair. So we weren't necessarily going to let those go. Instead, we were going to hold them and know that they were on life support. So, we weren't going to pull the plug on them just yet. We're going to let them hang out on life support. So that's another thing that I recommend, is that you consider putting things on life support as opposed to just saying, doesn't spark joy, it goes now. Because it isn't realistic for a lot of women to just purge everything and then say, great, now I have to buy everything back, or I have to go and replenish my wardrobe. So life supporting things can be a more practical and realistic approach for many people. Now, I definitely want to add a caution to that, and that is that you don't use that as a crutch. If you find yourself saying, I'll just put on life support, and that's your excuse, because I've seen clients do that, that is something that you want to avoid. These are things that you are currently wearing, that perhaps you wish were better. Maybe you have a coat and you're thinking, okay, it's not my favorite coat, but I am searching for one. I need a coat until I find it. This will do until. That's a lot different than, I haven't worn this sweater in 5 years, but I really don't want to part with it, so I'll life support it. That's a very different conversation. So you don't want to use life supporting things as a crutch. My next bit of advice is, remember why you got rid of things in the first place. Clearly, you got rid of them because they didn't spark joy. And I think that is still significant, regardless of whether or not you are pining for those things again. I had a situation like this. I think I actually wrote about it in my blog post, where I had a shirt that was really practical and basic. It was like a basic V-neck blouse that just I could throw on. It was easy, but every time I wore it, it wrinkled. And so it really became not as practical and useful as I had hoped it would be. So I got rid of it. Didn't spark joy. It made me miserable every time I wore it. But the concept of that blouse I liked. So when I went into my closet and I got rid of it, and I thought, why did I get rid of that shirt? Like, I had forgotten how annoying the blouse was, because I loved the idea of that blouse. I was like, this one may not have been perfect, but it was something. So it's important to remember why you got rid of something. Clearly something was telling you it wasn't sparking joy. So when you're pining for it again, it's important to presence those things that had you get rid of them in the first place. And to also make a mental note. So what I did was I made a mental note for myself. Like, that may have not been the perfect top because it had some flaws, but I need something similar that doesn't have those flaws. So it really did help inform me on what I should be looking for. The last thing that I want to say in regards to some condo regret or over condoing is to ask yourself if you got rid of clothes or if you got rid of your false sense of security. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So years ago, I was working with a client who had 2 full closets. And by the time we were done, we had purged pretty much everything where we could get her closet down to just 1. And she emailed me shortly after and she said, I feel like you got rid of all my clothes. And I said, I didn't get rid of all your clothes. I got rid of your false sense of security. You weren't wearing any of the things that you had that we got rid of. So I'm not exactly sure where the missing is. It's not like you ever wore them. And that's what I meant by a false sense of security. The stuffed closet gave her a sense that she had a lot to wear, but in essence, she wasn't wearing any of it. So I wouldn't have gotten rid of anything that was practical or useful or that fit her, that was flattering. Everything that went didn't work for her. So we didn't really essentially get rid of anything she needed. It just looked like we did. So before you assume that you don't have anything left to wear, I want you to really think about whether or not what you got rid of was being worn anyway, and whether or not it was that practical to begin with. So did you get rid of your clothes or did you get rid of your false sense of security? Moments of lack in your closet can be wonderful for helping you build back in a really smart way. So in these moments where you find yourself wishing you had something because it would help you put a look together, like, for example, that blouse that I was referring to before that happened with me, I was able to identify that, yeah, I wished I had it, not necessarily that blouse that I got rid of, but something similar. So it made my shopping much more effective. Nobody is saying that you have to build back your wardrobe immediately. That is not an expectation. And you can take your time. I am 99.9% sure, Jillian, that you have more than enough in your closet. And the benefit of having less is that it will force you to work with what you have. And like I said, it will force you to really look at what you need and what you don't. So I hope that helps. And I also hope that it gives you some strategies for building back and also in the future when you are thinking of condoing again. So to all of you, I hope that was helpful as well. As always, be sure to subscribe to this channel by clicking on the right side. And on the right side, and also follow me on social media, Pinterest, Instagram, and Twitter. It's at Bridgette Raes. On Facebook, you can visit my page at Bridgette Raes Style Expert. And don't forget that I also have a closed group through my page that you can join. You can visit the link below for more information. There is a small subscription to join, and you can click the link below in the description box about more information about the subscription as well as what we do with the revenue earned. As always, it's great to touch base with you. I look forward to seeing you next time with a new stylish tip.